I have a confession to make. But before then, I want to start with a question and I need you to actually sit with it. I need you to answer it. You could put it in the comment section. That will help. I need you to feel this question. And it is, when was the last time you allowed yourself to actually want something big, something important, not just something practical, but not just something sensible, in fact? Not just something that, feel neatly inside the box of what people expect from you. Just something outside of what your past framed you for, what your environment framed you for. In fact, something outside of the everyday expectations of you, something big. I'm bold to say something outside, even bigger than yourself. When was the last time you allowed yourself feel something big? Something that when you allow yourself think about it, you feel guilty. For a moment, you feel that strange mixture of excitement and guilt, because that guilt was something in your past that, nobody expected you to be that thing, or nobody expected you to achieve or to attain a certain level in your life. When was the last time you actually felt something like that? Because if you felt that guilt, that is exactly why we are here. That is exactly why we are sitting down here and you're watching or listening to this podcast today. So welcome to Rhoda 360. I am Rhoda, and this is the beginning of a long series about the 360 degrees of your professional life. So let's get into it. I want to tell you why I chose, this as the very first episode after my break. Because I could have started anywhere. I could have, gone back to childhood trauma and how it affects professionals. I could have talked about women. I could have talked about relationships. I could have started with healing, with mindset, with purpose building, frameworks that will work, morning routines, and all the things that make, a great podcast content so that at least people will watch it. But then I keep coming back to what makes me original, what makes Rhoda 360 original. Because I think that before we can talk about building anything, before we can talk about purpose, before we can talk about healing and how purpose accelerates healing or vice versa, or growing or creating a life that feels whole, we have to deal with something, that one thing that scares all of us, that one thing that most of us carry all around, because this is who we thought we are, even without realizing it. That belief that wanting more is wrong. Most people believe that wanting something bigger than their environment is wrong. Most people believe that, okay, yeah, we are thought to be contented with what we have, but then it's not a sin to want something bigger. It's not a sin to want to step up the ladder. Because there's this quiet, persistent, deeply embedded, belief that the life you have should be enough. In fact, some people will even look down on you when you tell them, okay, I'm now a medical doctor. I want to go for a second degree, or I want to work, in an oil industry, or I want to be a banker, or I want to, grow higher, even in the medical degree. I'm a businessman today. I want to diversify. I want to pivot into something else. That feeling or that belief that wanting more makes you ungrateful. For instance, if you grew up in a kind of family, and this is taking me back to childhood trauma, Again, in a kind of family that believes that they've done so much for you, and if you will be ungrateful if you were not living the life that um they've helped you attain. Do you understand? So say you have a family that paid your undergraduate tuition to study pharmacy, and then they want you to, be in that cage because they paid your way through school. You should be in that cage. You would be ungrateful if you tell them that you want to go for a master's degree, or you want to go for a PhD, or you want to pivot into oil and gas or accounting, because you wouldn't be living the dream they have for you. You wouldn't be living the life they have for you, because in such situations, either parents or guardians or whoever funded your education would want to live the lives they couldn't live through you. Now, immediately you say, no, I want something different, or I want something more, you become ungrateful. I'm just using that as an instance. There are many instances where wanting more sounds ungrateful to people, sometimes to yourself. Sometimes you sit down and you're like, I have almost everything. Why do I keep wanting more? Why do I keep wanting, why do I keep dreaming bigger? Because we were taught that dreaming big makes us selfish, that reaching out to something beyond what we were given makes us problematic. Makes us the problem. That belief, that one quiet little belief, has cost more people more life than almost anything we can actually think of. That belief that wanting more makes you a problematic person, or wanting more makes you ungrateful. Many people have lost their path. Many people are in unhappy situations, unhappy jobs, unhappy relationships because of that single thought alone. It cost me too. It cost me too. Let me just share this story quickly. Sometime in my life, when I was finishing my undergraduate, sometime in early 2014, just before I graduated from the university, and that was the same year I got married too. My late grandmom, then God rest her soul, sat me down one day and told me something. And she said, when you're done from school, I want you to find, a way and be on your own. I want you to find a way and do your thing. Not to sound rude or not to sound insensitive, but I think that woman knew me more than I know myself even now. It's like she sat down and saw a future for me. My grandma then actually asked me to, there was this word she used in my language then, something like bloom, go, bloom, go, bloom, because she understood the family dynamics. She understood where I was coming from. She understood what was required of me. She also understood that it was toxic. She understood that it wasn't ideal to be expecting such from someone that should have her own life. So she asked me, finish your education, go and bloom. But did I listen? No. Why? Because I was family oriented. I was all about family. So it had to be about my family. Although I would get married, but it had to be about the family I come from. And that cost me about a few years of my life, living an unhappy life. Something I could initially just do for myself and put family first. Even when I got a second family, it was like an extension of what I would do for my biological family. So whatever decision I was taking, I would put family first for years, running to about 7 to 8 years. It had to be family first. If I was making any decision, I'll discuss with family first. If I was seeking any help, even when I could get such help from people who are not family, I'll go to family first because that is how I thought it was meant to be. But it did work that way. No. If you watch my earlier videos, you get a good grasp of what I'm talking about. But then that is just a little part of my story. Now, another version of Rhoda that I wanted to always share or that existed for a long time is that I was capable, I was smart, I worked hard. My family, even though they may not want to tell the truth, knew, God, I worked hard. If I was in school, I worked hard. With all the brain fog, with all the thought of what could possibly be going on, at home, with all the thought of, okay, what I was even going to meet when I left school, I worked hard. I ensured I did the right things. Was I perfect? No, I wasn't perfect. I made my own mistakes. In fact, there was a point I knew I was a bad girl, but then I showed up. I showed up when it mattered. I delivered when it mattered. Earlier in life, did I have maybe financial support for people? No. But then I showed up when it mattered. I supported when it mattered. At least I was valuable to people. At least people that were using me then for so many different things. I was valuable. I was dependent. In fact, at a point, I was the in-between. So if this person wanted to speak to that person, they come through me. If this person wanted to speak to the other person, they come through me. I kept all the secrets. I held on to, I filtered, I held on to all the toxic things that would have passed from person A to person B. I was that dependable person. I ticked every box that was put in front of me, no matter how challenging. Was I the best? No. But I knew I tried. However, I was living about 30% of my actual life. So I wasn't happy. No matter how dependable I was then, no matter how I wanted to put my all into relationships, into family, into the different dynamics I found myself in the last 10 years of my life, was I happy? No. Why? Because of dreams. I had dreams, I had ideas, I had things I really wanted to do. But then those things lived in a very quiet place in my life. A place that I'll visit occasionally, especially very early in the mornings when, I couldn't sleep. I would just wake up, and some people call it daydreaming. I don't think that's daydreaming. When you wake up, when you can't sleep at night because of these ideas, this quiet realization that you could be something more, but then you are held back by probably expectations. You're held back by probably what people will say or how people react if you actually came out to be that person that you wanted to be. I'll visit that place. I'll come back. I'll visit that place. I'll return with aches. I'll return with pain because I felt I could never, take that step. Why? Because there was no reason to, start any uproar. I was already living in a dynamic where even a call could mean something. I could call a family member and then immediately I end that call, they'll pick their phone and call another person and say, okay, Rhoda has called. This is what she said. So there was no reason to actually be me, be that person. But then again, I knew that I couldn't continue blaming my environment or where I came from or the situation around me. I needed to find a way. But then I was not ready. Most times, other people needed things from me. There were people in my life that were practically draining me physically, emotionally. Let's not even talk about the finance, because the finance was not even there anymore. I didn't have a credit score because the money left before it came. There were responsibilities. There was practicality of living that life. Sorry guys, I'm taking my time because I have to choose this one so that you understand where this is going. Then there was this voice. You know the voice I'm talking about. That voice of, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Why do you think you want something bigger than what you are right now? I remember a day a family member came to my house, and then she said something like, look at the kind of house you live. You even live better than me. Now, whether this person was not expecting that things were going to go well for me or things were ever going to go well for me, I don't know. So there's an expectation that this person had placed that, okay, this Rhoda was going to stay stuck somewhere. So when such person sees you or hears that you want something bigger, the next question will be, who does she think she is? Then underneath of all of this, underneath every sensible reason and practical excuse, there was that belief that I couldn't be something more, that I could into something better. You know, that belief that wanting something more was not for someone like me, was not for someone with my kind of background, especially if you grew up in a family where cousins were expected to do better than you, right? So there were some kind of good things that were not expected to come from you. So wanting something big at a point was like, not for people like me. Now, it got to the point that reaching for something was even bringing hurt for me. When I even think about it, and I reached out probably to a family member or someone close to share the idea that, okay, this is the idea I have and I think I can do this, I just need help with this, it brought hurt. It brought hurt because instead of helping, or instead of, or giving me, probably sharing the right advice with me, it became something that people used to fight me because the audacity for me to even think about such things. Now, that quiet decision again was not safe because I didn't know much about whatever I wanted to do or be. I've shared before that I always liked research and development, and I have a family member who was in that path early in life. I always appreciated him, and I like the way he took his life, and he started putting it together from academia into research, and anytime he came up and he was like, okay, they were doing something in the lab or publishing or doing a work that we published, I liked it. But that was all I knew, right? I didn't know how to step into academia. I didn't know what to do. In fact, master's degree for me was just something I wanted to do because I wanted to upgrade myself for industry. I didn't know what being in academia meant, but I liked it. And so I was looking at this person as someone that I could follow his footsteps. Behold, lo and behold, they thought I was jealous of the strides they were making. I wasn't jealous. I was just interested in whatever steps they were taking to shape their lives. So it was always there, lodged somewhere deep. was this desire to be good, this desire to be better than I was, running quietly in the background like a program, Python, you know, a program that I had unconsciously installed. And the cost of that program, the cost of living, living 30% of my life, it felt heavy. The cost felt heavy every day because it wasn't loud. Sometimes it was a low hum. Sometimes it was this stomach ache. This my stomach, my stomach churning, practically begging for me to loosen up a bit. A sense that something was off, that I was performing a life rather than living one. As though I was on a stage every day of my life, performing for something or someone or some people, rather than living for me. That version of me I carried for years. Then gradually, not dramatically, and I didn't just wake up one day and it happened. It was not a lightning bulb moment, but gradually I got exhausted. I got tired of that life. I got tired of being in that box. I got tired of being in that cage. Because I always knew I wanted more. I always knew I was made for more. But I didn't know how to go about it. A part of the Bible says, deliver us from the snare of the fowler, like a bird delivered out of the snare of the fowler. I'm not reciting it well. But you know what a snare is? A bird that is caged, and somehow that cage was opened and then flew out. I was delivered. Or in this case, I gradually got tired of shrinking. I gradually got tired of performing those performative acts, those acts of people pleasing, those acts of shrinking just to make others happy, those acts of packing the real things away, just to keep the peace. It got exhausting and I had to choose myself. So I started asking different questions. Instead of asking myself, who do you think you are? Right? I started asking, what if I'm allowed? What if I'm allowed to think? What if I'm allowed to grow? What if I'm allowed to move? What if I'm allowed to shine? What if I'm allowed to be? What if I'm allowed to live? I started asking myself these questions. Here's what I know about people who end up listening to something like this. You're not someone who lacks intelligence at all. You are not someone who lacks capability. In a lot of ways, you are probably someone who has over-delivered in a certain area of life or certain areas of life. Someone who has given enormous amounts of energy, of talent, of care, of love, of presence to things and people or institutions. And somewhere along the line, in that giving, directly or indirectly, quietly, incrementally, supporting where and when you can, even if it's buying a shoe for someone who did not have, while other people bought houses for them. Supporting in that small area. But then you kept giving. Somehow you lost the thread, to fix yours. Because you kept giving and giving and giving until you lost the will, you lost the strength to fix you. Some people were unlucky to lose their lives before they found themselves. Do you know what wanting more feels like for a professional? It looks like brilliant ideas that you never pitch. I'm talking to you. You're listening to me. This is the 20 minutes of this video. If you stay to this moment, it means You're getting something from it. It means this is resonating with you. Professionally, you have brilliant ideas. You sit in that meetings. You never pitch those ideas. Reports you write, then you soften, you melt even before you send them. Or you reports that you may never even send. Promotions you don't apply for because you talk yourself down, you talk yourself out of them even before you begin that application. Do you know what this means for someone in a relationship? It looks like, sorry, it looks like you don't need a name. You don't even have a name for it. It looks like boundaries you don't set. It looks like a version of yourself you lose, a version of yourself you edited down, just to make it easier for people to love you. And knowing that these people will never love you. Someone that doesn't like you will not like you. Someone that feels you came into the family to be a competition with her will never like you, no matter how you try to keep the peace. What does it mean for a creative? It looks like a manuscript, a document nobody has read. It looks like a work you kept in a drawer nobody has seen. It looks like a canvas you hid. Somehow you hid it in your wardrobe. Nobody will see. A business idea that lives in your notebooks or in your apps, and it never gets further than that. Do you know what all this and all of us have in common? They all come from a certain place, the same place, that belief installed somewhere, somehow, that wanting a full version of life is too much. That wanting something bigger than where you've been placed is too much. I'm going to stop this video soon. And if you have any question, just leave it in the comment section. If you have anything to say, just leave it in the comment section. We can make other videos, other episodes to address your questions. But can I tell you more about belief? Belief was never yours. Believe, your purpose was handed down to you. The question is, what are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? So while you are there not believing in yourself, dear friend, there are people who believed in you and handed over that work to you. It was the water you swam in, the air in the room, the light that shone on you. It got you through, not through a dramatic single moment, but 1,000 small moments. Why do you think you survived all those drama, all those things that happened to you? From the teacher who redirected your ambition, to that country who did not give you scholarship, to that potential supervisor who did not accept you, to that parent who you feel you cannot fill their big boots, or to that parent who saw you, who looked at you and said, this child cannot amount to anything, and redirected you to another, maybe an area they thought was just useless for useless people. Meanwhile, they didn't know it was going to bring out something in you. To a culture that told you, women, especially the girl child, but honestly, everyone, the culture that told everyone that wanting too much was too dangerous. I remember, this video is getting too long. I remember when the first time I told a parent that I was dreaming of traveling abroad. That was even far before I finished my undergraduate. I always told this person that I wanted to school abroad. I wanted to further my education abroad. And then they'll look at me and laugh as though they were mocking my ideas because they felt, and then they would tell me that people from my place who went abroad never came back, or they had a cousin who went to the US and got missing. And now I know why people from my kind of place would travel abroad and not come back. Instead, they would rather probably relocate to an African country and live a quiet life there. You can't be this toxic to people, and you think they'll go and find what true family is elsewhere and return to you. They won't return because they know you will not change. However, I want to offer you a completely different way of looking at this today. What if wanting more is not greed? What if wanting more is not covetousness? What if wanting more is actually data? What if that ache, that pain in your tummy, in your heart, that restlessness in your head, that persistent, quiet, won't quit attitude for a bigger life is not a character flaw, but an information? What if your own intelligence is telling you that there is more capacity than you are currently using? Your brain is giving you the green light that you can actually do more with this brain than just being stuck doing one thing. More experience, more to become, more to give to the world. Think about it from a biological standpoint. When your body is hungry, that hunger is not selfishness, right? It's a signal. It's a system saying, look, there is a need here. I need to be filled. The soul, the heart, the mind, our whole being operates the same way. When you feel that you feel a pull towards something more meaningful, more freedom, more money, more creative expressions, more impact, more depth, more ambition. It's not greed. It's not greed. That is your inner life communicating with you. That's your inner life telling you, look, we would need to do this thing. We need to do something. If not, you're going to be restless or remain unhappy for the rest of your life. That question is not whether you should actually want more. The question is, so what has been making you treat wanting more as a problem? Why is wanting more a problem to you? Is it from your past? Is it from your present? Is it the fear of the future? Now, here is the part that I really want you to sit with, especially if you're someone who cares about other people, someone who leads other people, someone who gives or wants to give other people. A person living at 30 to 40 to 60% of their capacity is not a generous person. You are even a dangerous person. I've said it in previous videos. You who is trying to people please to keep the peace, you are a dangerous person. Because you cannot give from what you don't have. You cannot give from what you have not claimed. You cannot pour from an empty container. You can't be there. Now, when all these people you are calming down for, these people you are shrinking for them to love you, when they are in need and you cannot help them, you will become that person they don't respect anymore. And in that instant, you will begin to feel hurt. Like, after all the respect I've shown to this person, they treat me anyhow. You may begin to, run some kind of evil thoughts in your head. Right now, at the space in my life where when I see a people pleaser or someone shrinking just to keep the peace in the room, I fear that person. I'm in the space in my room where, probably because I'm also speaking now, right? I'm talking now. I say my mind. At least I try, although I try to be modest sometimes. But then I'm not hiding anymore. When I see people who people please or who just try to hide under their beds just to keep the peace, I run from such people because I do not know what they are capable of doing to me or to the room tomorrow. The most giving, most impactful, and most genuinely present people I've ever met are the ones that did not shrink themselves down. The ones that went all out, all the way into their own lives. The ones that actually lived their lives to full commitment, full honesty, full desire. I have an aunt like that. My aunt has lived, do you understand? Fully. People have called her names, including myself. We've all called her names. But one good thing my auntie has done for herself is that she lived full honesty to herself. She gave to everyone from a fullness and not from a drain well. Because if you are trying to give when you have nothing, what you start giving is anger, is hatred, is toxicity. That's what you'll be giving. You won't be giving love anymore. You won't be giving things that people desire of you anymore. Highest, you give money. And you give this money for people to stay on your side, for people to like you more. But then again, how long could you do that? Now, I want to be honest about something. This is not a simple switch up. You can't just flip it. You can't just flip the script. Like I told you, it took me time. It took me time to begin to come out and be myself. It took me time to actually laugh deeply and feel good that I laughed. There was a time in my life where I couldn't laugh because I couldn't laugh properly when I was on people because I didn't want them to feel too bad because Rhoda was smiling. Something like that. You don't just listen to a podcast episode. Have a realization. Walk out the door, get up from your seat, or take your headphones out. Walk into freedom. Walk into something free. Walk into wanting freedom and boldness without the fear that you used to have before. The fear, the old fear. Yes, the programming runs deep because if you're in your 30s and then you were thought that you would sound ungrateful for wanting more all through your life, changing or healing will take time because the voice doesn't just disappear overnight. The guilt, doesn't just dissolve because you've intellectually decided that it's irrational. No. What changes first is awareness. You become aware that, okay, this thing I used to think about is not so, or it's not proper. One change is awareness. Second one, you start to notice that, oh, there it is. I can write a proposal. I can write a paper. I can sing. Oh, I remember I used to dance in secondary school that year. Yeah, I remember I used to act drama on stage. I could go into theater acts. It doesn't matter if I have 3 PhDs. The awareness. There's the moment that I made myself smaller. There's a moment I packed the dream away. There's a moment I decided, okay, without even realizing that I was deciding that I wasn't allowed. Meanwhile, at that moment, nobody told me I wasn't allowed. I had it in my head. I felt I wasn't allowed. Awareness is the beginning of everything. There are 3 questions that come back regularly. And I want to ask this question today. If you feel you've been shrinking yourself, and when that old programming starts to run, I want you to just hold on to these questions and ask. You may not be able to answer them yet. First of all, why did I stop allowing myself want more? Why did I stop allowing myself want more? And when did that happen? Don't ask in a painful way. Just with curiosity, sit down. I still use pen and paper, pen to book, and it's helped me a lot. If you can trace it, write it. Why did you stop allowing yourself want more? When did this happen? Was it because of what a person said? Was it because of a decision that you made? Say marriage, say job, say some form of relationship, say the family you're coming from, say your environment, say because of money, finances. Sometimes you can pinpoint it. Others, you don't know when. You just felt, okay, it happened. Sometimes it's more of a slow fade. Either way, you can find it. Second question is, who benefited from my smallness? This one is hard. But then it's very important because sometimes it's not always, right? But sometimes our smallness was convenient for someone. Our smallness was convenient for that family. Our smallness was convenient for that sibling, or that cousin, or that parent, or that in-law, or that professional colleague. Our smallness kept the peace in the family. So it did not threaten anyone. It made us feel easier to manage. So this video is getting too long. I would have shared a story of how, in a situation where probably I started something in the family, and just because I was the one that started it, it was easier to push me aside and for someone to take over, that idea, and then made it their own, because I was easier to manage. I'll keep quiet just for peace to reign. Now, understanding that we were like that, can help us separate their need from our smallness. So understanding that we're always manageable can always, help us separate the need of those people from the smallness that we put ourselves in. The third question is, what would I do right now if I genuinely believed I was allowed? If you believe right now that you were allowed, or you are allowed to be great, you are allowed to want something more, what would you do differently? Right now, as I am, if I truly believe that I wanted to go after something, want more education, want more kids, pivot, from clinical research into probably dancing, what will I do differently? Just allow yourself to answer these questions honestly. Don't have to share it with anyone. But if you want to share it with me, my email will be somewhere on social media. Book a time and just to share. I'm not, like I say, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. But I'm someone that is passing through this journey also. And I will listen. I want to close with something I genuinely mean. I'm not wrapping up nicely this time around. There is something that only you can do. There's something that is only you that can do it. Even if it's talking on a podcast, there's a way you say that it's only you that can say it. There's something that is the exact combination of your experiences, your wounds, your past, your wisdom, your perspective, your particular way of seeing and interpreting the world, something that nobody else, and I repeat, nobody else can do exactly the way that you can. And that thing, whatever it is, whatever that thing is waiting for you. It's been waiting patiently because you have shrunk it, is there waiting patiently through all the years of smallness, all the years of quietness just to keep the peace, through all the packed away dreams and quieted ambitions. That thing that it's only you that can do has been waiting for you. It's been waiting. Not because it's romantic, not because it's nice, not really. Not because the universe is, going to deliver it to you. Like they say, God will not come down from heaven and hand it over to you. But because somewhere inside you, inside of your heart, underneath everything that was piled on top, underneath the life that has happened, that thing is still there. And you are allowed to get it. You are allowed to be something more. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to be more. You are allowed to live more. You are allowed to be healthy holistically. And I'll say it as many times as you need to hear it. My brother, my sister, you are allowed to be great. Anyways, I'm going to stop here. This has been Rhoda 360. Thanks for joining me. If this has landed something for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share this video, leave a comment, engage, in my videos on YouTube and Spotify, wherever you find it, so that we'll continue to grow. What is that thing that stops you from wanting more? I read every single one of your comments and every single one of your messages. Please send it to me. I'm doing my PhD and it's been a bit busy this couple of weeks, and even in the next couple of months is really going to be busy, and I'm grateful that I'm here, right? So what I do is I do not really have the time to speak with people, and I would appreciate that whenever you want to speak to me, you just book my time, right? It's not expensive, just 20 minutes or an hour of my time. And once I see your commitment, I'll get in touch with you and we'll talk. The reason why I started putting money into speaking with people is some people just want to call me and just get on the call and just to see my face. And some people were even wooing me and they were beginning to ask me out. Yes. So yeah, I just want serious committed people talking with me and sharing their ideas or whatever they think with me. So yeah, new episodes of Rhoda 360 will continue to drop every week. Like I said, it's going to be a couple busy couple of months. So even if it doesn't drop on a weekend, it could drop on a weekday, but then I'll try to be dropping it on a weekend. I'll see you in the next episode of Rhoda 360. Enjoy inspiration, enjoy insights, enjoy impact, enjoy the full circle. Bye.